Hi, everybody. Ian Bremmer here, and a quick take to kick off your week. Thought I would talk about the Middle East and Israel because it is very much in flux right now in terms of the nature of the war with Hamas and the pressure coming from the United States, from others. I mean, so far, of course, this war has been fought as the Israelis want unilaterally because they have the military capabilities and there have been no meaningful consequences against them from the U.S. or the rest of the world. And so that means they've been able to move from deterrence to threat eradication in terms of not only the war on the ground in Gaza, but also in the way they have fought against Palestinian extremists in the West Bank, in what we've seen against the Houthis in Yemen, as well as the Yemeni government, as well as against Hezbollah, as well as against Iran, on and on. That is changing. For the first time, we are seeing meaningful consequences being driven by the UAE, saying that they would leave the Abraham Accords, which matters a lot to Israel, and it is the signature foreign policy achievement of the Trump administration first time around, if the Israelis kill the two-state solution. Of course, part of the Abraham Accords was a willingness to engage in the context of a two-state solution, and there hasn't been progress on that, of course, but the Israelis also haven't killed it. Annexation of the West Bank would kill it. A Gaza plan that forces Palestinians out and leads to Israeli or Israeli-U.S. occupation would kill it. Those issues have been discussed and debated by Trump with the Gulf allies in New York over the past few days, a successful meeting, but Israel wasn't there. They didn't attend that meeting. There's been a lot of back and forth between Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and the Israelis over the past days, and now Trump meeting with Netanyahu directly. Now, here, there is this consequence. If the Abraham Accords were to die, that's a meaningful one. I mean, Bibi has been very vocal in criticizing all of these Western countries that have decided to recognize symbolically a Palestinian state, saying that they're supporting terrorism, all the rest. He has not criticized the UAE for threatening to leave the Abraham Accords because he understands that is a consequence that is meaningful and he does not want to upset the apple cart there. Then Trump came out and said that Bibi would not annex, Israel would not annex the West Bank. That's a pretty clear red line. But what happens if Netanyahu were to say, I'm annexing a small piece of it that's presently occupied by Israeli settlers, even though it's not legally occupied? Would that break Trump's red line? Hard to say, and that's what everyone's waiting to see. Also, Trump has said, including when he welcomed Netanyahu to the White House, that he expects that there's going to be a ceasefire, breakthrough peace deal in Gaza soon, imminently. Is that really true? And would that be in line with what Trump has now accepted, a Gulf plan that does include a Palestinian state, which Trump had supported in his first term, but not over the past few months. In fact, he says he opposes it. Well, now he supports it again. The Saudis wanted a 2-year timeline for that. Trump hasn't given an actual timeline, but he has supported it. And he has supported a Gaza reconstruction plan that wouldn't lead to the Palestinians being forced out. In fact, it would lead to Palestinian local governance and security provided externally, something the Gulf states can get behind. But so far, Israel has not been willing to. So this is the question, and the question of whether there would be real consequences from the United States if Israel says no, if the Israeli prime minister refuses or sort of accepts it, but then finds ways not to actually implement. And those end up similar, even if the headlines from today are very, very different. The Europeans, all of this news about the recognition of Palestine, I don't think that matters much to Israel's actual policies in the slightest, especially because the Israeli people, a strong majority, now oppose the creation of a Palestinian state, and that's been true consistently post-October 7th. Very different, though, than whether Israel would support being isolated internationally. And that a majority of Israelis really don't want. And we've already seen, we've got a vote coming on Eurovision, a number of European states saying that they'll boycott Eurovision if Israel stays in. Most Israelis like Eurovision and they want to be part of it, and they organize voting campaigns for their performers. There's been talk about potentially kicking Israel out of FIFA, and that would be very unpopular among most Israeli people. There's been talk among European leaders of trying to have economic consequences. There aren't going to be EU-wide sanctions that won't get unanimous support, but you could easily see visa restrictions that would make it harder for the Israelis to travel to Europe, for example. And I do think that if the war continues, the potential that Israeli citizens will start to feel that they are treated like South African Afrikaners during apartheid would be real. And that has the potential to really undermine Netanyahu's upcoming election chances inside Israel. So I don't think that the elections in the future are going to be about a Palestinian state, but they might be around the isolation of Israel. And that is now with the UAE move, with Trump specifically calling annexation a red line, and with some of what we're starting to see from the Europeans, suddenly consequences are starting to look potentially real if Israel continues on this path of unilateral war in Gaza and war by other means in the West Bank. So we'll see. It's very interesting. Certainly the ball has been moved on this conflict over the last week, with all these leaders coming into New York and the United Nations General Assembly. All those people that say the UN week doesn't matter, massively important in terms of both of the major wars going on right now in Gaza between Israel and Hamas, and of course between Russia and Ukraine. That's it for me, and I'll talk to y'all real soon.